channel. This is Christina at Homeschooling Grace, and I'm so glad that you can be here today. Today, I'm so excited I get to be a part of a collaboration on how to homeschool in the state of Oregon. So this collaboration was set up by Ingrid at Ingrid and Chronicles, and I will have her channel linked below in the state that she lives in. And also, there's a bunch of other gals that are part of this collaboration. So check out the description below and you'll see all the other channels that are part of this collaboration and see which state you're in. Maybe it's there and it will help you with, keeping up to date on the laws in your own state. So to start out with, I went to 3 different websites to get information on homeschooling in Oregon. The first one I went to was the Ocean Network. That stands for Oregon Christian Home Education Association Network. They are a great resource for homeschooling in Oregon. The next one I went to was HSLDA, which is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. And they have also a lot of great information on homeschooling. And then the last one I went to was OHIN, which is the Oregon Home Education Network. So I highly recommend, and I'll have their pages linked below, that you check out their websites if for some reason I was unclear about any part of the laws here in Oregon. So I'll be honest, I was pretty nervous making this video because I want to make sure I give you the right information on homeschooling in Oregon. So there's pretty much 3 laws, 3 parts to the law of homeschooling in Oregon. It is very easy to homeschool in Oregon. I want to start out by saying that. So the first part of the law is that you need to put in or send in a written letter or a written notice of your intent to homeschool to your local ESD, which stands for your Education Service District. That will be your county's Education Service District. So if you go to the HSLDA website, they have a link for all the counties and the ESD addresses so that you can send it to the correct one. And also, if you are a member of HSLDA, they have a copy that you can use for your intent to homeschool. If you're not an HSLDA member, you can go to the Ocean Network, and I'll also have that linked below, and that tells you what all needs to be added. They kind of give you a sample on there of how to write the letter. So it's very simple, and I'm going to read this straight from the HSLDA's website. This is all that you need to add to your intent to homeschool. And this is also just a one-time notice for your entire homeschooling journey. You don't have to send in any other times. It's only the one time that it needs to be sent in. Okay, on this intent to homeschool, it needs to be sent in within 10 days of when you start your homeschool program, or within 10 days of you withdrawing your child from public or private school. The notice must include your name and the names, addresses, and birth dates of the children being homeschooled. It must also include the name of the school your children are presently attending or last attended, or if your children have not been attending school, the name of the public school district where your children reside. Also, you need to get a follow-up acknowledgement from the ESD in writing within 90 days of receiving the notice. There is an option to do this online, but all the sites that I went to really recommend that you do it, do a written letter. And that is what the law asks of, and we don't want to add more so that the law may change. We want to make sure we stick to the law and ask for a written letter. And it didn't take us long to get our letter back, or a acknowledgement that they received our letter and approval, I guess, of, they don't have to approve it, but it did not take long to get the acknowledgement from the ESD of our intent to homeschool. Okay, so after you've sent in your intent to homeschool, and your child you do not need to send that in until your child is age 6 by September 1st. So if you're starting homeschooling in preschool, let's say 3, 4, 5, you do not need to send in your intent to homeschool. It's only if once they are age 6. So after you have sent in your intent to homeschool, and now let's say your child is in 3rd grade, the second part of the law is that your child must take standardized tests in 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 10th grade. So 4 times throughout their homeschooling journey. If your child gets 15% or above on the standardized tests, they do not need to be tested again. And that's it. You just do your 4 tests and that's it. And your intent to homeschool, there's no other requirements by the state for homeschooling. So that's pretty cool. If you would like to test earlier, you can test earlier, and you can test more than once. You can test every year if you just want to make sure your kid's on track in these areas. I know people that have done that. I know people that only do the testing the 4 times a year. Not 4 times a year. 4 times within their school lifetime, I guess. Schooling lifetime. The test must be approved by the State Board of Education and be administered by a qualified neutral person. And that is from the HSLDA website. So if your child has never attended public school or private school, the first examination must be administered to the child by August 15th after completing grade 3. You need to get the test results back from the one who administered it and the scores. After you've received that, there's nothing more that needs to be done. You don't need to send in the results to anyone, but you do need to keep them in case you are asked by your ESD superintendent for those test results. Most likely, they would contact you if your child got a score below the 15th percentile. Now, if your child does get a score below the 15th percentile, then they have to retake the test the following year. If they get a higher than 15th percentile, then you're good to go until, their 5th grade or 8th grade, 10th. Again, you're back on that regular schedule. If they get below again on the 15th percentile on their test, the ESD may place your child under a certified teacher. If they still are grading below 15th percentile on the tests, they may ask that your child be sent to public school. The superintendent may ask that. Okay, so I know this part kind of was like, oh man, this would kind of be scary. I've never heard of this happening. I know it could happen and it may have happened, but I have not heard of this personally happening. So don't let this scare you like, oh no, my child is going to score terribly on the test and then we're going to have to go through this. I wouldn't be worried about this. Most likely they'll do just fine and you'll just keep going on. So don't let this part stress you out. And honestly, if you have more questions about the testing, don't let this video be your only source on the law. Please go to one of these websites that I've put down below and look them up. None of them are sponsored or anything or sponsoring this video. I want to make sure that's clear. But they are a great resource to this information because you really want to make sure that you are following the laws correctly. Okay, so if you sent in your intent to homeschool to your local ESD and your child's been testing in 3rd, 5th, 8th, and 10th grade, then great. Continue on homeschooling and you're doing awesome. Now, what if your child has a disability? Well, there's one extra step for that. Your child needs to then have an evaluation with the ESD. And this would mean if they're already getting like early intervention of some sort, if they have a disability that require like speech therapy, occupational therapy, something like that, then they would have an IEP, which is an individual education plan. If your child has a IEP, they do not need to then have the standardized testing unless it states it in their IEP, if it's part of their plan. If it's not part of their plan, they do not have to have the standardized tests. So that's one part of the law that's also there. Okay, so that is it. There's just those 3 steps. Intent to homeschool, standardized tests, and if your child has a disability, and setting up their IEP, again, their individual education plan. And that's all. Now, one extra step that's not in the law but is very important is record keeping. HSLDA highly recommends that you keep records, and they have a list right on their website that I'm going to share with you because it gives the most information that I think will be helpful for keeping records. For us right now, because mine are still young, I just keep binders. And that's really the easiest. I just keep that information, completed work. I keep my the acknowledgement of our intent to homeschool, and any other things that the ESD would send me, I keep that. Correspondence. And again, this is right from the HSLDA website. These records should include attendance records, information on the textbooks and workbooks your students used, samples of your students' schoolwork, correspondence with school officials, portfolios and test results, and any other documents showing that your child is receiving an appropriate education in compliance with the law. You should maintain these records for at least 2 years. You should keep your students' high school records and proof of compliance with the home education laws during the high school years. And you should keep those on file forever. So 2 years for all other information. You don't have to keep first grade all the way through 12th grade. Just 2 years at least of this information. But high school you should keep forever, just in case they need it for some kind of job. You got to think about that stuff for them in the future. The items to also keep forever are any type of home education notice that you file with the state or local officials. And this is good also in case there's ever an investigation that you have to deal with about your home education, homeschooling. It's good to keep that information so that you have proof of what you're doing. I hope this video was helpful for you. Do not take this as, I am not a lawyer, do not take this as legal advice. Do your own research, check out these websites that I listed, and check out the other pages that are part of this collaboration. I hope it was helpful. I hope it encouraged you that it's easy to homeschool in Oregon. We love homeschooling. It has blessed our family, and it is so much fun. So don't be scared to do it and try it out. You know, if you've got young ones or older ones, give it a try. It may be just what you need for your family. So thank you so much for stopping by, and we'll see you at the next video. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.